Good evening, you are watching News Mongolian MNB World. I'm your host Jugdur Rambold. And for our top stories here today. The first ever female foreign ministers meeting in Mongolia paves the way for gender equality and inclusive decision making. Pope Francis to make historic visit to Mongolia, strengthening interfaith dialogue and diplomatic ties. Secretary General of the European External Action Service, Stefano Sannino, embarks on official visit to Mongolia. For other news, stay tuned. Mongolia hosted the historic female foreign ministers meeting on June 29 to 30, marking a significant achievement for gender equality and women's involvement in decision-making processes. The gathering brought together foreign ministers from France, Germany, Indonesia, Liechtenstein, Mongolia, and South Africa, who convened in Ulaanbaatar, Mongolia. The meeting resulted in the issuance of the Ulaanbaatar Declaration, which we present here in its entirety.
The ministers began by reaffirming their commitment to international law, including the United Nations Charter and its principles, as well as international human rights law. They emphasized the universality of human rights, with particular reference to the Universal Declaration of Human Rights and the UN Convention on the Elimination of All Forms of Discrimination Against Women. The ministers also reiterated their support for key frameworks such as the Beijing Declaration and the Platform for Action, the Program of Action of the International Conference on Population and Development, and the gender-responsive implementation of the 2030 Agenda for Sustainable Development. They endorsed the UN Secretary-General's Our Common Agenda, which places women and girls at the forefront in order to accelerate progress towards gender equality, women's participation, and women's empowerment across all sectors. Recognizing that women's and girls' rights are fundamental to democracy, the ministers emphasized the importance of gender mainstreaming in policy-making to promote gender equality and women's empowerment. They underscored that inclusive societies must ensure that full, equal, and meaningful social, economic, and political participation of women and girls as women's rights are human rights. Moreover, the ministers acknowledged that guaranteeing women's human rights and representation, along with their equitable access to resources, contributes to building just, inclusive, and prosperous societies. They emphasized the role of such measures in peace building and sustaining peace. In addressing the challenges faced by the global community, including international peace and security, food security, and climate change, the ministers stressed the significance of dialogue among United Nations member states and all relevant stakeholders. They emphasized the need for strengthened partnerships and cooperation to effectively tackle existing and future challenges. The female foreign ministers meeting served as a forum for those ministers to explore shared solutions to global issues while also reinforcing the importance of gender equality, women's empowerment, and inclusive decision-making process.
In a momentous occasion for Mongolia, His Holiness Pope Francis is set to embark on a historic visit to the country, marking the first ever papal visit to the landlocked nation. The visit, scheduled for later this year in August, is expected to further strengthen interfaith dialogue, promote peace, and foster closer diplomatic ties between the Vatican and Mongolia.
In a significant diplomatic move, Mr. Stefano Sannino, Secretary-General of the European Union External Action Service, has commenced an official visit to Mongolia from July 4th to July 7th. This visit marks a pivotal moment in enhancing the close partnership between Mongolia and the European Union. Secretary-General Sannino's agenda includes meetings with senior government officials and representatives from civil society, aiming to discuss the future expansion of bilateral relations between Mongolia and the European Union. The European Union and Mongolia have enjoyed a robust and fruitful relationship over the past decades, marked by collaboration in various sectors. However, this visit holds particular significance as it is the first high-level encounter between the two parties since 2018, following the outbreak of the COVID-19 pandemic. Secretary-General Sannino's visit demonstrates the European Union's commitment to revitalizing and strengthening its ties with Mongolia. The primary objective of Secretary-General Sannino's meetings is to assess the current state of affairs between the European Union and Mongolia and engage in dialogues pertaining to global geopolitical challenges peacekeeping efforts, and multilateralism. As the head of the European Union External Action Service, Mr. Sannino provides strategic direction to the European Union's common foreign and security policy, aiming to promote peace, prosperity, security, and safeguard the interests of the European Union on a global scale.
Now please take a look at the current affairs of Mongolia.
Pope Francis, known for his efforts in promoting unity and understanding among different religious communities, will bring his message of peace and compassion to Mongolia. The visit is seen as an important step towards enhancing mutual respect and cooperation between the Catholic Church and Mongolia's predominantly Buddhist population. Mongolia, with its rich history and vibrant cultural heritage, holds a unique place in the world, and the Papal visit is expected to shed light on the nation's unique spiritual traditions and its commitment to peace and harmony. Last August, Francis named Archbishop Giorgio Marengo in Italian the first cardinal to be placed in Mongolia, where he is the Catholic Church's administrator. Marengo was in Rome last month and met with the Pope to discuss the trip. Francis first spoke of the possibility of going to Mongolia in a conversation with reporters aboard the Papal plane returning from a trip to Africa earlier this year in February. The Mongolian government has expressed its enthusiasm and warm welcome for Pope Francis' visit, viewing it as a significant milestone in the country's ongoing efforts to strengthen its international relations and promote cultural diversity. The Papal visit is expected to draw large crowds and generate significant media attention, offering an opportunity to showcase Mongolia's cultural heritage and its commitment to religious freedom and tolerance. Currently, there are around 1,500 baptized Catholics in Mongolia.
Now here comes the currency exchange rates provided by the Mongol Bank. Now here comes foreign news partnered with international news agencies. NATO Secretary General Jens Stoltenberg will stay in office for another year. The 31-nation military alliance decided on Tuesday. Stoltenberg said in a tweet that he was honored by NATO allies' decision to extend my term as Secretary General until October 1st, 2024.
The transatlantic bond between Europe and North America has ensured our freedom and security for nearly 75 years, and in a more dangerous world, our alliance is more important than ever, he said. Stoltenberg, a former Norwegian prime minister, has been NATO's top civilian official since 2014. His term had been due to expire last year but was extended then to keep a steady hand at the helm after Russia's full-scale invasion of Ukraine in February 2022. US President Joe Biden and his NATO counterparts had been due to name a successor when they meet in Vilnius, Lithuania on July 11th to 12th. But the world's biggest security organization makes decisions by consensus, and no agreement could be found on a new candidate. Most NATO countries had been keen to name a woman to the top post, and Danish Prime Minister Mette Frederiksen was thought to be a favorite after a meeting with Biden last month. The President of the European Commission, Ursula von der Leyen, ruled out her candidacy. Other possible names floated but never publicly named, as in the running were Dutch Prime Minister Mark Rutte and UK Defence Secretary Ben Wallace. It's the fourth time Stoltenberg has had his mandate extended. He is the second longest-serving NATO Secretary General after former Dutch Foreign Minister Joseph Lons, who spent almost 13 years at the helm from 1971. Quizzed repeatedly in recent weeks over whether he would agree to have his term renewed, Stoltenberg said that he was not seeking to stay and had no plans other than to continue to carry out his duties and wrap his time at the helm in September. NATO Secretaries General are responsible for chairing meetings, guiding sometimes delicate consultations between the member countries to ensure that compromises are found so that an organization that operates on consensus can continue to function. They also ensure that decisions are put into action and speak on behalf of all nations with one voice. Stoltenberg has managed to tread a very fine line, refraining from criticizing members led by more go-it-alone presidents and prime ministers like former US President Donald Trump, Turkish President Recep Tayyip Erdogan, or Hungarian Prime Minister Viktor Orban. With NATO's historical adversary Russia locked in a war with Ukraine, the process of naming a new Secretary General has become highly politicized. Poland opposes the next Secretary General, coming from a Nordic state after Stoltenberg's long tenure and that of his predecessor Anders Fogh Rasmussen from Denmark. Polish officials wanted someone from Baltic state. Estonian Prime Minister Kaja Kallas was a preferred candidate, but other countries are wary of accepting a nominee from the Baltics or Poland, given what appears to be their unconditional support for Ukraine, including on NATO membership, which the US and Germany, among others, insist should not happen before the war ends. In naming Fogh Rasmussen, a former Danish premier, the 12th Secretary General in 2009, NATO's leaders signaled that they wanted a government leader or president at the head of their organization. This has made the path almost impossible for Wallace.
The head of the UN Nuclear Agency is meeting with Japanese government leaders before treated radioactive wastewater is released into the sea from the damaged Fukushima nuclear plant.
Japan hopes the visit by International Atomic Energy Agency head Rafael Mariano Grossi will give credibility to the contentious plan. The Japanese Prime Minister said that International Atomic Energy Agency will continue to conduct reviews even after the release has started, and Japan would continue to provide updates with a high degree of transparency. Fumio Kishida said the release of treated water is consistent with international safety standards.
At the same time, the IAEA said the release of Alps treated water into the ocean is consistent with international safety standards, that the radiation effects on humans and the environment are negligible. It has also been announced that the IAEA will continue to conduct reviews and monitoring even after the release has started.
The treated radioactive water stored in about 1,000 tanks that are nearing their 1.37 million ton capacity must be removed to prevent accidental leaks and to make room for the plant's decommissioning. Japanese regulators finished their final safety inspection of the equipment last Friday, and the plant operator Tokyo Electric Power Company Holdings is expected to receive a permit for discharging the water in about a week. It could do so any time afterward, though the start date is still undecided amid concerns and protests.
Please take a look at the weather forecast for the world's major cities. Well, that's all for today. Thank you for staying tuned. We'll see you next time with more news and updates. Have a great day ahead.